And it's go time. Good morning, Redondo Beach Center for Spiritual Living. To those of you online and to those of you here live and in person that braved the wonderful weather. It is a beautiful day. I'm claiming best day ever. I had sunshine, I had a rainbow, and I had rain. So it was all beautiful, and now it's blue skies somewhere out there. This morning, our speaker is the amazing Reverend Catherine McKinney, so yay. And also this Sunday, Reverend Catherine McKinney will be speaking, and we have Andrea Lane as our singer this Sunday. I love her. Our beloved Soundscape Orchestra, if you haven't heard them, it's the Lori Richelieu's group, and they were here in December. How many of you were here for that? The concert? Oh, it was so much fun, and it was so fabulous. I just thought it was going to be just like a little band, but no, it's an amazing orchestra and an amazing talent. So that is this Friday. There is no charge. It's a beautiful love offering. We're going to have coffee, refreshments, some cookies. I'm going to bake all day on Friday. So we'll have lots of good stuff. Doors will open at 5:30, and then the concert is from 6 to 8. Not to be missed because they are amazing. All right. This Sunday is the drumming circle. Yay! If you've not drummed, you want to join Maeve Ruth because it is so much fun, and she really puts a lot of metaphysics in it, is what I want to say, and a lot of spirituality in the drumming. So it's a fun thing to do. That is at 12:30 after service. On Monday is our last balance class for this term. It's at 11 a.m., and the cost is $10. So if you want more balance, you can join. Even if you haven't been to one, you can still come to that one. Every Tuesday at 10 a.m. is Reverend Kathy's in-person reading. We do a book study, The Untethered Soul. Such a great book. So much that we're learning from that book. So if you want to come and join us, absolutely anytime. That is at 10 a.m. every Tuesday. At 11 a.m. on Tuesdays, there is a yoga class. Bring your mat. The cost is $10. It's a wonderful thing. On Wednesdays at 9:45 on Zoom, Reverend Catherine McKinney reads and does a book study, How to Live. Learn to Live, let me say it right, by Erwin Seal. I've listened to the book a long time ago, and I haven't joined yet because there's always things happening, and it's Wednesday morning. So Wednesday morning, if you want to get a little pre-service inspiration, and I know it always brings Reverend Catherine a lot of inspiration, so you might want to join that book study. We do have a couple of dance groups on our first Sundays. We have a dance group. It is the South Bay Dance Group, and you can come and join that. We also have on Wednesday nights, every Wednesday night, the walk-in, dance out. So if you want to walk in, dance out, you can show up on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. Let's make our center sparkle. April 1st, and it is not an April Fool's joke, we are having a spring cleaning, so please join me. We will start at 9 o'clock. We'll go till about 2. I'll have snacks and stuff for us, and we'll just really do some concentrated cleaning and use our organizational skills. Reverend Mary Morgan is teaching an abundance workshop, the 40-day prosperity plan. The books will be in tomorrow. The books are only like $7. If you're a member, you get a 10% discount. So it's an amazing thing. It's a 40-day plan on making sure that we're abundant and prosperous. So she will launch it on April 2nd, 12:30 to 2. The workshop will get you set up to follow the book and to have that prosperity roll in on those 40 days. Just a little reminder, too, that every Sunday, the Science of Mind study group, they read the Science of Mind textbook and talk a little bit about what's in there and what we're learning. So that is every Sunday, 10:15 to 10:45. We are still in that space of the season for nonviolence. So this is a good time to really ponder the peace within, as Mahatma Gandhi would say, be the peace that you want to see in the world. The more we can embody peace ourselves, the more we can put that out there into the world. And so we are on day 52 today, which is equality. Have you ever noticed the groups of people who are underrepresented in your activities and lifestyle? Find one way to connect with a person from these groups today. knowing that we're all one, and we want to celebrate everybody in every group, all people everywhere. And just another reminder, Sunday services, CDs are always available for purchase after service, about 12:15. And we really want to come back to the volunteers. I know the volunteers that are going to show up on April 1st, as well as the volunteers that help support hospitality, help support our audio and our visual. Thank you so much for that. Our ushers, our greeters, the people that help make this place go. So thank you so much for that. And without further ado, here is the amazing, wonderful Reverend Catherine McKinney.
I am really glad to be here, and I'm standing more on this side because there's sunshine over here, so I'm just sure that's good for me, that I'm standing in that place. I am really happy to be talking about this topic. It's one of these things that I've really kind of gotten into with so many different threads, so I'm rather eager to see which parts come out. And so, but before we go there, I want to just take a moment for all of us, those of you at home as well as everyone in this room, to simply come together in this idea that we call consciousness. It is all consciousness. And I know that I am participating in something so much bigger than I am. And so I allow myself in this moment to simply breathe in the depth and the breadth of as much as I can understand in this moment, that there really is only one thing going on, and that is the life of God. It is the life of God, and it is moving through me in ways that surprise me and in ways that I plan for. And I love to know that what shows up is absolutely perfect. I love to be in that space. And so I know that as I move through these words, these ideas of sharing, that it's absolutely perfect, that the words that want to be said are said. The words that want to be heard are heard. And that everything flows through in such divine perfection that it's exciting. And so I anticipate the good. And gratitude simply for the opportunity to be here and to share and to know that only good comes from everything when I know it does. I simply say, yes, I agree, and invite you to join me as I say, and so it is. If you were at services on Sunday, or if you watched online, you may have listened to the wonderful music of Tina Meeks. And one of the songs that she sang began, "Everything must change. Nothing stays the same. Everyone will change. Nothing stays the same." And so what I want to share, and maybe you noticed, is as she's singing this song and Andy's playing the music, it's in a minor key. And then the chord brightens up, moves into a major key, and the words become, one thing there are many things that you can be sure of. Rain falls from the clouds. Sunlight fills the sky. And hummingbirds do fly. I loved those words. And the idea for uncertainty came to me, in all honesty, because of the book by Dennis Merritt Jones. I did a book report on this book, and it's the idea of, he's presenting the idea of uncertainty as being something not to be abjured, but something to embrace. And so in exploring that, I noticed how much the song that we heard Sunday anticipates that. The special time that we've all been through over the last few years was a period of uncertainty. And the unknown is an uncertain thing in some places. I think of things that are unknown as unknown, but when we have emotions that are attached to them, they become more like uncertainty. There are a lot of things I don't know. I don't know how many miles it is across the Atlantic Ocean. There's so many things, and I'm okay with that. I don't have any anxiety about it. But when anything I don't know becomes a source of anxiety for me, that's more like uncertainty. That's just the way that I am interpreting that word. And during that time, starting in March 2020, we had almost an epidemic of anxiety in this country. Anecdotally, I read about many therapists who could work 10, 12-hour days, 7 days a week, just dealing with the clients they already had without even taking on new ones. And then there were others that were taking on new ones. There was so much anxiety. And anxiety can be a hallmark of uncertainty, anxiety and fear. And so what do we do with that? What is that? Because we're saying that rain falls from the sky, sunlight falls from the clouds, sunlight fills the sky, and hummingbirds do fly. Ernest Holmes spends a lot of his words and a lot of ink in all of his books telling us that everything is always changing, that we're always changing. He doesn't put it in a minor key. He actually celebrates the idea that it's always changing because it's something that we can use. We can take the fact that things are always changing so we can step in and direct that change for our good. We say, change your thinking and your feeling and change your life. And we want to embrace that. So when we're faced with uncertainty, maybe we're not sure what to do and what to do with that feeling of, I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know how it's going to affect me. I know that in this period of time where we were, there were many things happening that were wanting to be helpful to what's going on. This center, for example, opened up in ways that we could only do online. We began the class that I have on Wednesday morning, we began in March, April of 2020 as a place where people could come. Yes, we were reading a book, but in addition to reading a book, we're reading Principles of Science of Mind, very basic principles. It was The Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker. We were reading these things, and other things would come up and people would be able to share so that they could relieve some of that uncertainty and see the things that we can be sure of. Dr. Moira on Monday did tea and chat with Dr. Moira so that people could come in and just say how they're feeling, and that could happen. That idea that we can come together in some way was part of a release mechanism. And that's why all those people were flocking to their therapists. They needed something because they weren't sure what to do with the anxiety that they were feeling. And of course, there were some people who channeled all of that anxiety into constructive things. I read that people were baking up a storm. And it's true that when you went to the grocery store then, the flour shelves were empty. That you couldn't, flour was hard to come by because it was being used up. What a cool thing to take on something that I can do and then give it away. But that was such a positive effect of how to deal with this situation. I'm going to do something for someone, and there's a principle involved in that. Because see, that's what Ernest Holmes teaches. The thing we can be sure of is that there is a power, there's a presence in this world, and we can use it. And he spends so much time talking about how we use this. And this idea of the creator, Aristotle called that creative force the unmoved mover. So that there was something, the creator, whatever name you want to give that didn't change. The one thing you can be sure of. And that's it. So as part of that one thing, there are the principles that are God. There is a power that I can use, and it is part of that one thing. And we are taught when we learn the laws, the principles, the first one, the main one, the only one is cause and effect. For everything that happens, there is an effect. For everything we think and feel, there is an effect. And so that's the principle, and that's what we can be sure of. We can talk about that rain falls from the clouds, but it's not the same rain. The clouds aren't in the same place and they move around, but the principle is built into the system as part of creation, just as the seasons come and go. It is in creation. Ernest Holmes talked about faith in a talk that he did once. And one of the things that he talked about is faith in the system of creation. And he said, the tides come in and the tides go out. Grass is going to grow. And he says, that ham sandwich that I ate is going to be digested beautifully by my body, and I don't have to do anything to make it happen. He's talking about the principle that is designed as part of creation. You can just have faith that that works. Now, the faith that we have, that I think most of us have, that our bodies are going to work. I'm going to breathe even when I sleep. My heart's going to beat. We have a faith in that we don't even think about. We don't even question. But we have deep experience with that fact, if you will, that our body digests our food and distributes it throughout our body. We don't have to know the names of the enzymes or any of the things that are happening. They just happen. And that's what Ernest Holmes was talking about. Just as surely as there's harmony in my body, I can have harmony in the body of my affairs. Everything that goes on when I know that there is good and only good coming from my thoughts, and when I am practicing those ideas that bring to me what I want. And so we talk about spiritual practices, and spiritual practices is a basket of things that we might choose from. And there's no right way to engage in spiritual practices in your life. But in my opinion, it is something that is required of me so that I can stand in a place where I do know that good comes from everything and that I can support that much more easily. That when something comes along that disturbs my peace, I have the wherewithal within me. The wherewithal within me to rise to that occasion almost without thinking, just like those enzymes are going to settle my food and digest my food. Because there's no reason why we have that faith. We work to have that faith. We keep supporting the one principle, and that I am God expressing. I'm God expressing all the time. Even if I be in my so-called bad self, I'm still expressing. And I'm fortunate that the Creator doesn't judge that. I'm the one who does the judging, who gets to readjust and say, that's not how I want to be. And all of us are in that situation. There are things going on in our world that we don't necessarily know. I heard on NPR this morning something very interesting, that fits into this in an arcane way. We have rain falls from the clouds. That's my connection. They were talking on the radio station or show that was on as I was coming in about all the rains that we're having and these series of storms that we're having. And when I turned on the car, they were listening to a meteorologist, a big head meteorologist at Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and he was explaining lots of things. And so when the question was asked, why is it that we're having all of these rains so uncharacteristic for our area? And he says, well, as hard as it is to believe, it's because of all of the storms over Indonesia in the Western Pacific. And then he goes on to talk about that. And I've laughed about that because Ernest Holmes says that all the time. When you know with faith there's something that you want, that some piece of information you need in order to be able to fulfill this deep desire that you have, if that thing exists on the other side of the world, it finds its way to you because you know. Well, the storms in Indonesia are affecting the way the jet stream is going, which affects us with water. Isn't that amazing? Absolutely amazing. There's so many things in our experience when we know about them that simply support, at least for me, the idea that we are here in a vast array of creation and we're important, no matter how much we may question that at times. Many of you may have been to the Continental Divide. I have not, but it's that place that is in North America. It's the continent of North America, and there's this side and there's that side, and if rain falls on the eastern side, ultimately that water ends up in the Atlantic Ocean. If the raindrops fall on the western side, they end up in the Pacific Ocean. And that may seem as if that it doesn't matter, but the meteorologist that was telling this says small amounts of this get into the flow and it definitely affects bigger and more things. And that's the way it is. The things that you and I do, say, think, have an effect beyond what we can imagine. We sing that song on Sunday. Our thoughts are prayers, and then we say, be careful what you're saying. Be careful what you're thinking, because it does have an effect. So when it comes back to uncertainty, we want to think about what are we uncertain about? What is our fear? What is our concern? Is it just the unknown? Or do we have some other things associated with that? In the book, The Art of Uncertainty, Dennis Barrett Jones describes these birds, sparrows, that were making nests on a ledge right outside his kitchen window. Maybe you all have had an experience like that, because I have. And they watch them make the nests, and he goes on, and then when it gets to the part where the eggs are ready to hatch, and they are hatching, and the baby sparrows are ready to leave the nest, they noticed one day that the first sparrow, the biggest sparrow, stepped out of the nest onto the ledge, looked down, and looked out, and put its wings out, and just flew away. The second and the third one did just about the same. And then there was the fourth one, the smaller one, maybe the egg that was on the bottom. He got out of the nest, as his brethren did. He goes to the edge, and he looks down, and he looks down. It's like, I don't think so. And he goes and gets back in the nest. And he sits there for a bit. They're watching him from the kitchen window. And whatever he thinks, he gets back out, and he goes to the ledge, and he doesn't even think about it. He just spreads his wing, and he just leaves. that divine urge within him that's part of creation, absolutely urged him to do what he did, just like the grass will grow, just like the ebb and flow of the seasons. And that urge is within us to do and to be fearless in the things we need to do. There are two kinds of uncertainty, I think. There may be at least two, I should say. One is where there's a part of you that kind of knows what to do, but you're not sure you really want to, or you're afraid, or you're thinking about the consequences. And then there's another kind when you actually don't know what the best thing is. So you just simply trust in a principle that I know that things are going to unfold as they need to, and it's going to become clear to me as it unfolds what that is. I love it when that happens. I love it when I'm treating for something that I'm not attached to how it turns out. I actually love that. It helps me to practice letting go. But there are times when I'm treating, and there's a part of me that wants it to come out a certain way. I do. And so I'm thinking of, I have a close relative who is undergoing serious treatment for a serious disease. And I know how I want that outcome to be. But at the same time, I have to know that I'm not my brother's consciousness. I am not that. But what I can know is that atmosphere around this person, and I can lift them up and keep knowing that the choices they're making in consciousness as well as in the physical realm are the highest and best for him and for everyone. That I can know. And so letting that go and recognizing that is part of dealing with uncertainty as well. And so I think that the lesson for me in uncertainty, and I think that it's really where Dennis Merritt Jones wants to be, is that we absolutely embrace uncertainty as part of life. He talks about, in the beginning, he said, if you know anything about mysteries, then when you read mystery novels, you want to hurry up and get to the end to see who done it. But our lives may be a little like mysteries, but we can't rush to the end. The end is going to unfold. Now, maybe I like immersing myself in that because I read a lot of mysteries, and I really like that idea. But just as we like to watch horror movies to help us get used to the fear, that's what psychologists tell us, that we love as a culture horror movies. It's like we get to practice fear in a safe environment because it's in a movie theater or if it's in front of the TV, and we know we're okay. But we get to have that experience of fear and know that we've come through that, and it gives us confidence. Indeed, little children love for you to startle them. We start out with hiding and going, peekaboo. And the same thing, jumping around a corner and going, they love that. They're loving that being afraid thing because it's practice and it's safe. Well, the same thing is true with uncertainty, really, the mystery. We have to understand what it really is to us and not rush into, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen, to stop. Stop, as they say, stop, drop, and roll into that idea that there's a power for good in the universe and I can use it. I am using it. I'm using it all the time, and I'm going to use it for my own benefit. And I'm going to know that whatever is here, if I know what to do, I'm going to step off the ledge. If I don't know what to do, I'm going to wait and allow it to unfold, and I'm going to be at peace with however that turns out. Is that a tall order? I don't think so. I think it's simply a matter of choice. How can I be the best? Not just for me, but for everyone that's around me, because none of us lives in a vacuum. It's always lovely to remember that. You're not unimportant. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you're not an unimportant person. You are of value. And just like storms in Indonesia are giving us a huge amount of rain here, we never know how some drop here and some drop there is affecting someone else. So let's make it a wonderful effect. Let's make it all good. Whether it's a smile that we give or whether it's encouragement, enthusiasm, all of those positive things that we can choose to have that consciousness of prosperity, of success, of generosity, of harmony. We can choose that as a principle. One of the lions of science of mine, I believe it was Robert Bitzer, because I heard it from Dr. Moira. I depend on principle, he would say. And that's what we can do. We can depend on principle. And that my consciousness is expressing that idea that no matter what I'm faced with, whether I feel that I have a choice or I don't, that it's all for my good and for the good of everyone around me, whatever I am choosing. I say yes to that. And so it is. So this comes a time for questions, and I love that, sometimes we get questions from YouTube, and if we get questions from YouTube, we will do that as well. Grant's coming down. If anyone has a question, we'd like you to put it on oh yes, we do that first, you're right. Are we going to have it up here, Grant, or not? I'll just go ahead with the blessing, or?
It will be there right now.
Okay. We're in flux with things, so. Divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, and to prosper all those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good, and I release my gift with love, and so it is. So now, I jumped the gun. Ruthie is going to pass the plate, and if anyone has a comment or a question or anything, this is the time. And Grant will bring you a microphone if you choose to do that. Everybody is content. That is wonderful then. There was a story that is told. It's told in Emmett Fox's little teeny-weeny booklet called Life is Consciousness. And it has something to do with who you give credit for when something happens. And he tells this story of out in the Wild West, there were miners and cowboys and people, and they did have some entertainment. They'd set up a tent and put a sheet down in the back of the tent, and an old projector, and these were silent movies, and maybe somebody was plunking a piano, maybe not. And so they're watching these silent movies, and these are the ones where, the damsel is like this, and the villain is like this. And so they're doing all of these things, and then the villain has got the heroine by the neck, and he's choking her. And so there's this old cowboy who gets up from the front row. He takes his 6-gun, he empties it into the villain and the sheep. And of course, everybody laughs in the tent because he hasn't done anything, but to him, he's killing the villain. And what Emmett Fox says, if he really understood consciousness, he'd turn around and shoot the projector. Because that was the source of all of that. And so it is, understanding principle is the name of his point in Life is Consciousness. So, any other questions? That wasn't a question, that was an observation. So,
we have a comment from YouTube. Sydney, he said, Dr. Bitzer would like to say third-year class that now is the prime time to practice the principle.
Say it again, please, what Dr. Bitzer used to say.
It's slightly confusing. I'll read it again. Dr. Bitzer would like to say to third-year class that now is the prime time to practice the principle.
Yes, now is the time to practice. Any time is now is the time. I stand on principle, he said, and many of the, I think of as the lions of science and mind, and Raymond Charles Barker is one of those. They had no problem saying one simple sentence. And everything that happens in your life came from your subconscious. Full stop. I stand on principle. He also said that indecision, Raymond Charles Barker, that indecision is the will to fail. Full stop. So these principles are really stalwart. And I think that our job, my job at least, is to stop tiptoeing around them, at least in my own thinking, so that I know what I need to know when I need to know it. And that's Raymond Charles Barker, too. If there are no other questions, then I think we are complete. Thank you all for being here. And yes, thank you for being here.